All praises be to the living I, Jah Rastafari.
All right, Soup. Thanks for that once again, man.
You're welcome.
Real quick, I just want to say that our 3-year anniversary is coming up here on April 14th. That's Friday.
Wow.
It'll be 3 years, some almost 500 shows that we've done. But enough for that. We do have someone more important in the studio tonight. Here she is. There 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 she is. Wave to the crowd. The entire world is seeing you right now. Opal Palmer Adisa. She's in the studio. She's been here before. This time she's wrote a book called Look. Moko Jumbie. So how are you?
I am very good, and I want to say congratulations. It's really important that you celebrate the achievement that you've done. That 3 years you've done 500 shows. Not many people can say that. So congratulations to you both for
Thank you very
the
much.
concept and executing it and continuing it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Working hard to just make some things happen, you know?
Absolutely. That's what we're each doing.
And you're a hard worker to yourself, Opal. So
I'm trying, you know. I think I'm so glad you read that piece by Haile Selassie about education. And I think sometimes we forget that as a people brought to the New World, we were denied education. So education is really valuable, and it's one of the things that once you have it, no one can take it away from you.
that's right.
But I have been a little saddened that much of the education system hasn't changed to meet the needs of the community, and specifically about what our students are reading, and that it somehow reflects their culture and their history. And so I decided 2 years ago that I was going to write a series of 3 books for elementary students that celebrated the local culture. And this is the first in the series, Look, a Moko Jumbie, because Moko Jumbie is such a cultural icon in St. Croix, in the entire Virgin Islands. And I know it brings up a lot of different things for children in particular, but I wanted to share the positiveness of the Moko Jumbie that I have experienced and that I have enjoyed. And I think a lot of people who come to visit St. Croix also experience and enjoy. So this book was written specifically for the children in mind. And I wanted to write a book that was make-believe, but that was based in reality. So certainly in St. Croix, Willa John has been the guardian of Moko Jumbie, the guardians of the culture, the director of the Guardians of Culture, Moko Jumbie. And so I met with Willa John several times. I interviewed him about what he's been doing and why he continues this tradition. I went to several of his practices where he was training primarily young boys to learn to walk on stilts and to dance. And then it is a result of all of that research and other research that I've done in Trinidad and elsewhere that this book came up. And I wrote it from the perspective of a little boy because I wanted it to be the voice of a child. The voice of a child experiencing this, and to try to be honest with how this child might feel. And so that's what the story is, Look, a Moko Jumbie.
Okay.
So the story begins, you know, with the first thing, and I'll just read it. I've read it to students at certain elementary schools, and I'm hoping to read it to all of the students at elementary school. The book, I think, is most appropriate for grade second grade, but I've also read it to kindergartners, first grade and third grade, and each grade level really enjoy it. The children are excited. They have a lot of questions.
Do they know what a Moko Jumbie is?
Oh, yeah, they all do. I've not yet been in St. Croix and the Virgin Islands. I would be hard-pressed to think that any child doesn't know, because it's always so present at carnivals, at fairs. And one of the first things I say to them when I go into the school is, does everybody know what a Moko Jumbie is? And invariably, all of the children's hand get raised. And I say, where do you see Moko Jumbie? And they always say at the agricultural fair, they say at parades, they say that. And I said, how many people are scared of Moko Jumbies? Because a lot of kids are scared of them.
Right.
And some of them raised their hands. It was so funny. I think it was 2 weeks ago, I was at this elementary school, and I was working with second graders. And the kids say to me, well, I used to be afraid when I was little, but I am not afraid anymore. And I thought, how funny. I said, how little were you when you're afraid? When I was about 4 or 5, but I'm 7 now and I'm not afraid.
Yes,
So that
yes.
was really wonderful
Yes.
to hear that. So the story begins with last night, just after Mummy turned off the light and said, "Sleep tight," I saw Moko Jumbie standing by my window. I don't know if you can zoom in on the picture, or I don't think I sent you this image. But what I wanted, a lot of kids are scared at nights when the light get turned off.
Right.
And so I wanted to start there to see, to start at a level which is familiar to them. And also children tend to see things,
That's right.
at night.
Yes.
They imagine things under the bed, or the closet door is open and there's some clothes there, and depending on the shadow of the light, they think it is something else. So they're already at that stage where they see things, they imagine things. So I said, okay, what if this little boy said he saw a Moko Jumbie at his window? And of course, if you were to see a Moko Jumbie, as this little boy did, you would be scared. So the next thing he said, I was about to scream when he put his fingers to his lips, and I zipped my mouth and my eyes open wide. And then the kids, whenever I say that, the kids said, yes, I used to be scared of a Moko Jumbie. I saw a Moko Jumbie at my window. They're so impressionable, and you just need to give them an idea and they run with it. And so this little boy is not alone. He's with his twin sister. So he says, I looked to see if Baku, my twin sister, saw him too, but she had fallen asleep even before Mummy turned off the light. And so then what happens? Here's this child, thinks he sees a Moko Jumbie, wants to see if his sister sees it, but she's asleep. What does he do next? Well, he looks again to see. I blinked and looked at the window again, and now there were 2 Moko Jumbies. So the one has multiplied into 2, and they folded their hands together, leaned their heads on their clasped hands. They look like one perfect shell split in 2. Go to sleep. We will protect you, they said. And just like that, they disappeared in the darkness. And so the kids really get excited by these 2 pages. And I said, well, do you think they disappear? Where did they go? They give me all kinds of places where they think they go. Oh, they walked away, or they went down the road, or they went to the beach, one kid said, or they went to look for my grandmother. So I get all of these answers from the kids about where they think the Moko Jumbies disappeared. And then the story continues to say, I closed my eyes tight, and soon I was asleep. And then I woke to find Daddy sitting on my bed, shaking me gently. It's time to get up and get ready for school, he said, leaning close to my ear. Daddy, I said, still in bed, do Moko Jumbies ever visit you at night? Can't say they have, he said, helping me out of bed. But Daddy, I pleaded, not now, Bamindele, time for school. Ask Grandpa when you see him this weekend. And so here I usually pause and I say to the kids, who wake you up in the morning for schools? And some of them it's their mommies, some of them it's their daddies, some of them it's their grandmother. And I said, does your mommy or daddy say anything special to you when they wake you up? How does Bamindele's dad wake him up? He whispered in his ears and he pulled him gently by the hand. And so the kids tell me, my mommy sing to me, or my mommy just say, wake up, but they give me all of these different ways in which their parents interact with them the first time. One kid says it's his sister who woke him up. And so that gives us, for me, the book is an opportunity for the kids to begin to see their own lives and to begin to personalize what happens to them. And so also part of the premise of the book is that there's a family here. There's a mommy, there's a daddy. There are various key peoples who become people to ask for information. And what I'm trying to point out here when the father says, ask your grandpa, is that we have people in our community, in our family, who are here to help us and to give us knowledge, right. And we just need to go to them. So when Daddy left the room, I whispered to Baku, I saw 2 Moko Jumbies at our windows last night. No, you didn't, she said, sticking out her tongue and racing to the bathroom ahead of me. I stuck out my tongue back at her and went to look out the window. As far as I could see, there were no Moko Jumbies, just the chickens and the rooster. I looked to the left, but I just saw the mango and plum trees full of fruits. I looked to the right, but I just saw Tiger, our boxer, leashed, sitting on his hind legs beside his canal. I peered further, and I saw an iguana, head raised, listening but not moving. I looked all around, but all I saw was the sky and the day. No Moko Jumbies. This then provides another wonderful opportunity for me, because the wonderful thing about St. Croix, and I think most of the Virgin Islands, just about every yard, there are fruit trees growing. So I stop here and I say to kids, what trees do you have growing in your yard? And they tell me mango, plum, guinea, banana, coconuts. And so we have a great discussion about all the trees that grow in their yard and what are the local fruits that they like. Then I go to the next page and I say, how many of you have dogs? Many people in St. Croix have dogs. What are your dogs' names? What types of dogs you have? How many of you have seen the iguana? Are you afraid of iguanas? Because these are all things that are pretty commonplace in most of St. Croix. So it provides an opportunity for children to share what is familiar to them and to see how much the book relates to them. Mm-hmm. Then we continue. At breakfast, I asked, Mommy, can Moko Jumbie get into my room? No, Bamindele, but why do you ask? She said, rubbing my back. I saw one. Well, I saw 2 Moko Jumbies last night by my window, just after you turned off the light and closed the door behind you. Really? What did they do? They told me to go to sleep and that they would protect me. You are really lucky to have your very own Moko Jumbies protecting you and your sister. Eat up now so we aren't late for school. Now, one of the things here that I want to point out is that a lot of times when kids tell a story, I have heard a number of adults who say, you lie and you're making things up. And I didn't want the mother to do that, because that's what we do as children. That's how you exercise your imagination. So the mother doesn't say, oh no, you're making it up. She says, really? What did they do? So the question is open-ended, and that I try to make it so that adults begin to understand that we need to give children a voice, and we need to understand that they have imagination, and their imaginations are what are the basis for them developing and being creative. And so we leave it open for them to tell their stories without shutting them down by saying, oh, you didn't see it, I don't believe that kind of stuff. And then here's the next authority. So the parents are the first authority that the child goes to. The next authority is school. Mrs. Charles is my teacher, and she knows everything. So I asked her, Mrs. Charles, do Moko Jumbies ever stand by your window at night? You have that slide. Can you show that slide of the teacher? I don't know if you can find it. Not that I know of, Bamindele, but it's their job to protect us and guard our community. Now take out your book so we can begin our reading for the morning. So there's the teacher, and then the next slide is of the children in school, the 3 kids at their desk. So here again, the teacher doesn't say no, she says, not that I know of. So she doesn't shut down the child. Right. You know, she says, not that I know of, but they're here to protect us. Now, for many people, you know, Moko Jumbies have all kinds of connotation, but certainly one of the things that Willard John said to me repeatedly in terms of his desire to preserve it is that based on his history, that Moko Jumbies are still dances that come from the African tradition, and that their job were to protect the community. And so I wanted to infuse that sense of a Moko Jumbie as a protector, as a guardian of our community. And so I stop here and I say to the kids, well, what does it mean to protect? And who protects you? You know, who are the people who protect you? Or if you're in harm, you can go to. So we begin to talk about teachers, mummies, daddies, grandmothers, police, all of those people who they see as protectors. And then I say to them, what's your community? You know, what does community mean? And it's amazing what first graders and second graders and third graders understand about community and what they want to share, and do they feel safe in their community, and those kinds of things. So we talk about that. At lunchtime, I told my best friend Jamal that 2 Moko Jumbies were standing at my window last night. And again, kids have best friends. They have other kids, they have other children at school that they gravitate towards. So I want it again to be something that they could share at lunchtime. Were you scared, he asked. Before I could reply, he said, sometimes when I see Moko Jumbies at carnival or at the ag fair, they scare me because they are so tall. And the kids love that. And then he bit into his Johnny cake. Johnny cake, again, native, cultural.
Right.
I know, I said, and they wear masks and they cover their faces. I think you have these images too. And they dance and prance around like skyscrapers, Jamal added. And they don't have feet like us, I shouted. And they wear hats and gloves, he squealed. And they are spirits. And we both screamed and ran off. Saturday, when Baku and I went to visit our grandpa, he was standing by a coconut tree drinking coconut water. And I love it. Just about every class I went to, I love that the kids are drinking coconut water.
Okay,
And they talk about eating jelly.
Yes,
I love it. So that was just so, because, you know, if I were to do this book in the U.S.,
They
the
wouldn't
kids, they wouldn't
understand.
have the same thing. But these
Yes.
kids grow up with coconut water and jelly.
jelly.
And they
Yes,
talk
sir.
about, some of them say they like the jelly, some of them say they don't. Some of them say they like it soft, some of them say they like it hard. It's just wonderful. And Grandpa, I said, as he gave Baku and me each a coconut jelly, will the Moko Jumbies hurt me if they stand by my window? No, sir, said Grandpa. Then he leaned against the coconut tree and smiled, a faraway look in his eyes. Moko Jumbies are here to protect us and keep us safe. They are the good spirits of our ancestors. As long as Moko Jumbies are around, we will continue to be safe and to prosper as a people. I looked to see what Grandpa was staring at. I saw Moko Jumbies dancing all over his land, between the coconut trees, among the banana trees, even under the flamboyant tree in the middle of the lawn. I felt happy seeing those Moko Jumbies. I called to Baku, and she and Grandpa and I joined the Moko Jumbies and danced all over Grandpa's yard. And that's the story. And so here again at the end, I say to them, you know, tell me all of the trees or fruits that you have in your yard. If you were to see a Moko Jumbie, what would you do? They dance with them. Would you dance with them? Would you run away? Would you invite them to play a game? What game would you invite them to play? So teachers have all of these options. There is the story, but the story allows a lot of room for discussion about things that are familiar with the children. And I think it's important, I firmly believe that it's important and it's time we in the Caribbean have books, particularly at the elementary level, that reflects the culture of our children. And unfortunately, when I went into the classroom, I saw almost no book. I didn't see, you know, there were a lot of books, but almost I didn't see one that reflected the culture, whether it's of St. Croix, St. Thomas, or any island. And I think it's important. So my new task, my new agenda is to write books for elementary children that reflect the Caribbean.
Okay.
And so at the back of the book, I took a photograph of Willa John in costume, and then I just provided a little history about the pioneers of the tradition in St. Thomas are John McCleverty and Hugo Molinar. And Willa John, you know, has been the director of Guardians of Culture Moko Jumbie for the last, I think he said 30 odd years, and is continuing to practice. And then I point out that stilt dancing has its roots in West Africa, African tradition, and is practiced in other Caribbean islands. It's still very much practiced in Trinidad and the Bahamas. It used to be practiced in Jamaica, but I haven't seen it there in a while. And then I also mentioned that a Jumbie is a spirit or a ghost. However, Moko Jumbies are believed to be the good spirit of our ancestors who watch over and protect us. So it brings in another cultural belief, you know, and we have those cultural beliefs. It doesn't matter what your specific religious faith is. As African people, we have a cultural belief, and this is part of our cultural belief that pervades the Caribbean. And so I introduced that. And I just want to say that, you know, a book is always a collaboration. It's a collaboration, especially a picture book, between the artist. And so the artist is a local educator. The illustrator is Christy Ann Davis Malloy. And I had seen her work and loved her work. And when I decided to write this book, I met with her and I said, you know, I'm doing this book. can you illustrate it for me? Because I'd seen she had done a lot of Moko Jumbie images. And so it was going back and forth, us dividing the words, looking at what images we thought were appropriate, and then she coming up with the images and the book together. And then the third part is the publisher. I really wanted a Caribbean publisher, and this is a young Caucasian woman who has started a press about, I guess, 10 years now or something like that, and publishes books, children's books, as well as adult books. So I was very happy when she said she liked the story and she wanted to do it.
She's here in St. Croix?
No, she's not here in St. Croix. She's in St.
Kitts,
She
okay.
lives between St. Kitts and the USA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And at the back, it lists the next book. In fact, Christiane Malloy and I are now working on this next book, which is about quadrille and Quelby.
Okay.
And so that's the next book that I'm hoping to finish sometime soon.
So how long did it take you to do this first one?
You know, it's interesting. You start with an idea and you jot things down and you put it away and then you come back to it. So this book went through about 4 drafts. I wrote the first draft and I gave it to 4 teachers I knew to read it. And they taught elementary school, and they gave me some feedback. Some of the language was, they thought, too hard for the grade level that I had in mind, and it was too long. Many of them felt the initial manuscript was too long.
Too long, okay.
Yeah. So I went back and I looked at for grades. I was aiming it for about grade 2, 3. You know, and in terms of publishing, they said usually no more than 850 words. I think this is just a little under 1,000 words, so it still is a little longer than for that age group. But so then I did another review. I gave it to some other people, and they read it. And then I went to a school, and I read it to just get what the students, without pictures, of course, and to get some feedback from the children. And they liked it, and I felt, you know, that I really had the rhythm, and I had captured their voices, and then I gave it to Christiane to illustrate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So book number 2 is on Quelby and quadrille, and so
Right,
it's sort of the
and-
same, 1,000 words or less.
No, well, the book on quadrille and Quelby, because it's turning out to be longer than that, I'm going to aim it for, and since this one is for 2nd and 3rd graders, I'm aiming that one for 3rd and 4th graders.
Okay.
So it can be about 1,500 words. And that's going to be a challenge because, you know, Bradley Christian, for the last 4 to 6 years, has been the caller.
Yeah.
And he has preserved that tradition, and I've met with him. I'm going to go and observe him teaching a class at one of these elementary schools a couple times. I've talked to other people who dance the Quelby. I've interviewed Stanley because that's his forte.
Yes, yes.
So the book is going to be about the sister, a little girl who's Jasmine, and her brother. I haven't come up with his name yet. So she's dancing the quadrille, and then he is playing the Quelby with Stanley and the 10 sleepless nights. And so that book is going to be a little bit more words. In fact, whereas with this book, just about every page has an image, I think with that book, it will be every other page. There will be a page of text and then one page of image.
Okay.
And Christiane Malloy has already done an incredible picture of Stanley and the 10 Sleepless Nights, which will be the center page. So we've been talking and working, and of course in the back you see the little girl. She will be the cover for the next book.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like she's a really nice artist.
Yeah, she's
So
a
is this,
lovely artist.
Pencil
yeah.
or is this like paint?
This is paint, this is watercolor, and a lot of the pieces, most of the pieces in here, some are watercolor and some are oil.
Okay.
She tells me, in fact, I just got a text from her. I had invited her to come on the show, but she's working on her doctorate at UVI and has class tonight. But she tells me all of the next images for the next book is going to be in oil. And I want to say something because someone said to me, well, it's expensive because the book is, a hardcover book is $20. It's very expensive, one, to have these drawings done and then to paint color. So even though it's a small book, the production is more expensive than a novel, which doesn't have images. And I wanted it to have very colorful images for children and for it to be realistic.
Yeah, that sort of captures their attention with the color.
Is it are you selling it locally, right?
Yes, it's at Undercovers Books, and in fact the 21st, Saturday the 21st at 11, I think it is, I'm going to be at Undercovers Book reading and signing. So certainly people should bring their children. They have a story hour Saturday morning from 11 to 11:30, and I'll be there. And in fact, I'm hoping that Christiane will also be there. So it's available at Undercovers Book, and it's also available at Cruise and Gold.
Okay.
And I'm trying to get it into some other places.
Okay.
I'm going to see if the university bookstore will carry it.
How are the teachers, you know?
Well, you know, it's been a bit slow getting it out, in that when the book came out, I sent a flyer and a letter to all the principals of the elementary school saying this is a book and that I'd be very happy to come out and read it.
Right.
And a few principals immediately jumped at the opportunity, and I've gone to a couple schools. And other principals, you know, I think people are very busy and swamped. You know, they've said, come back and stuff. So I'm going to wait until after Easter to again engage the schools and those schools that I haven't visited to say, I'm willing to come and I'd like you to purchase a couple copies for the library. And the other schools that I've visited have purchased copies for the library. So, and the kids are very excited because when I go, they want to take my copy. And I said, no, I can't leave it, but you can go to your library and get a copy.
Right.
So, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. And so any concepts on the third book?
Well, the third book I wanted to do, and I'm in fact, maybe I could get some feedback on that. I wanted to do my St. Croix, but that would leave out St. Thomas. And that's because I don't know St. Thomas.
Right.
I've been to St. Thomas, but I don't know St. Thomas. And I wanted to do a kind of like a historical, you know, from the Frederickstead, the fort, to Point Udall kind of stuff. And, you know, this little kid going there and going to Wim and going to the botanical gardens and something like that.
Gotcha.
That probably still will be the third one. And, you know, maybe I'll visit St. Thomas and figure out 2-3 places to add.
Right.
You know, she'll have a grandmother or somebody in
Something in
St. Thomas,
yeah.
and I go to St. Thomas and I take the seaplane and, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. Opal Palmer Adisa is our guest this evening. She has written a children's book. It's called Moko Jumbie. Now, you said there was a couple of things that you wanted to talk about as well.
Oh, right. So this is the centennial. And, you know, I have to do a disclaimer. I am not from St. Croix. And so people might say, then you don't have any business in it. But I live in St. Croix and I love St. Croix. And I personally believe we're all from every island. It's just a matter of, it had nothing to do with me or you, which island we got stopped and dropped off.
Yes,
but I know people have very specific island boundaries. Anyway, this is a centennial and people are either celebrating or commemorating it. And I felt that there should be more interrogation, more dialogue about what it meant for people.
Right.
You know, and in fact I did an interview with some women talking about identity and culture, and that's one of the questions I framed. So the art show is going to be at Fort Frederick, in one of the galleries in Fort Frederick, and it's going to open on April 28th. And artists who are interested in participating can send an email and a sample of their artwork to Fort Frederick. But here is the thing. The theme is the centennial, what it means to me. So I want artists to really interpret that concept. I don't just want pretty pastoral pictures and all of this stuff that you always get. It's a political show. It's a political show. And I want artists to begin to interrogate, well, what does it mean that a people who were freed and fought for their freedom rather valiantly was sold, you know, by the Danes for 25 million, who took the 25 million and took it to Denmark and benefited the people there and didn't benefit the people in St. Croix.
Sure, yeah.
I want people to interrogate that. And, you know, there's been a lot of exchange between St. Croix and the Danes. And, you know, I think reparation is a big issue. And we need to not be polite about that issue. We need to say that you need to provide 1,000 scholarships for our students so they can get degree, because in Denmark, education is free to the university level.
That's right.
You need, I have a friend, Ayoka Lovin, who's working on doing a children museum. Reparation money should create a children museum in St. Croix. Yes. You know what I mean? Yes. So I want us not to be querulous, but to be mindful of our rights, and that there are certain things, exploitation that occurred, and those need to be addressed and redressed. So I'm looking for artists to use the various mediums, whether it's photography, oil, collage, ceramic, you know, to use the various mediums. And I'm also inviting students. So you can be in college, you could be in high school, you could be whatever. And what does the centennial mean to you based on the history that you know?
Through artwork.
Through artwork, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you say this is coming up starting April?
This is going to be, the show is going to open on Friday, April 28th, and it will be up at the fort until June 15th, and the Fort Frederick is open Monday through Fridays from 10 to 4 o'clock, and when there's a cruise ship in, whether on Saturdays or Sunday, it's usually open, and so the show will be available. And, you know, I'm inviting all local artists to participate, and we will need to have the work by the 22nd so we can decide what work will be included, and then we'll hang the show that week, and it will open on the Friday.
Okay. So that'll be like open like all day? Is it kind of all day at the
Yeah, the Fort Frederick is open all day, and so
Okay.
people will be able to go to see the show all day once it's open after the 28th of April.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So if you're a local artist and you want to just sort of give your rendition of the commemoration celebration through artwork, this is a chance to do it. You can take a creative picture or do something with clay or pencil or however you see art to be, and submit it to you, right?
Yes, to me, send it through to the email at the fort, and yes, submit it. And we will, you know, well, I shouldn't say not everybody will be included. It would be lovely to get a tremendous body of work that we have to go from. You know, there's one gallery that has been reserved for us, but there's another gallery, and I would love for us to be bursting out so that we have to go to the other gallery as well. But certainly, you know, we're looking for work that is critical and not just something pretty and the sea or, you know.
Yeah, something a little bit more in depth.
Yes. I say something with an edge.
All right. So have you been doing anything with your poetry?
Yes. You know, I'm always doing stuff, and so and I guess I should have brought it and I forgot. I'm also decided that this year I wanted to write a collection for St. Croix. So it's called Ode to St. Croix. And so I said to myself last week that I was going to write at least one poem a week for this collection that I'm hoping to have done the end of this year. So I'm writing poetry. I'm working on a concept for another play. Today my next play in July is going to be on elders. Last year when I did the play on child abuse, someone contacted me and said their mother was in one of the senior homes and there was some abuse. And so I know that happens. I know that people have dementia. I also know this amazing woman I interviewed today who was 92, and I was like, I want to be like you when I'm 92, who still lives alone and is so vibrant and energetic and independent, you know. It gives me hope. So I'm interviewing elders, and I'm working on the concept of this play, which is pretty much already in my head, about these 5 elders, and they reflect back on their lives. One of them has an early stage of dementia, so that gets played in the play, and you know how people deal with that. One of them has been in a situation where they were abused by the home care worker and had to be removed. And so it's these 5 elders who are kind of having this conversation with each other and reflecting on their lives, the good and the bad, and how they feel now. One of the things that was so wonderful today when I interviewed Agatha was that she said, you know, for the most part, her life has been really very good. And it's kind of nice to hear that someone at 91 has, yes, you know, and when I wanted to find out, well, what are some of the conditions or the issues that are for seniors? And she says she no longer drives because I guess 3 years ago she was in a car accident. Her car lost its brake and she broke her ankle. And she said one of the difficulties for a lot of seniors is that transportation. Transportation or getting someone to come and help them clean. And so these are things we need to be mindful of. I know there have been times when I am driving, and particularly at 5 Corners, there's usually a woman and a man who's usually waiting on the bus, and the bus doesn't run well, and I usually offer them a ride, and they're going to, you know, the supermarket kind of stuff. So, you know, and she said she felt that even in her neighborhood where she's lived, and where she's lived since, I think she said 4 to 6 years, maybe, so that's probably about right. You know, she says the young people, she don't feel that they're respectful, that because she doesn't go as quickly as they do, they are impatient, they're blowing their horn. So I want us to be mindful of these things, and to understand that we, if we're so lucky, will be that age, and we want people to be conscious and to just help. When you see somebody, they don't have to be related to you, but if you see somebody on the road or at the supermarket, an elder, what does it hurt for you to say, can I help you?
Can I help
you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And for us to make sure that the government provide more services, transportation services and healthcare workers to help seniors to manage and enable themselves. So that's also something that I'm working on.
Okay, so you're just a busy beaver, man. Just
you know what? It's like you guys, because you see something that needs to be done and you just step up to the plate. That's how I was raised.
Yeah.
You know, and so there are all of these issues that I want to remind us, because we are a strong community, but I think things happen and we're not as strong as we used to be in some areas, and we just a gentle reminder, and so I'm providing the gentle reminder.
All right. So our guest tonight is Opal Palmer Adisa. She is a writer. She is a poet. She just finished her new book, children's book.
Children's book.
It's called Look, a Moko Jumbie. She is actually reading this 5, 6, 7 page book at some of the elementary schools here in St. Croix Virgin Islands. It's roughly 2nd and 3rd grade.
Yes.
The first book, and she is going to be writing 2 more books. I guess moving up in the grade level. So we want to thank you for coming through.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And hanging out with us again.
Yes. And I just want to say, if there are any principals or teachers watching and are interested, please contact me. I would love to come to your school and share this book with your students.
Okay, and then she also has coming up the
art show.
The art show starting April 28th.
April 28th.
Through mid-June.
Yeah, through June 12th at Fort Frederick.
Okay, Fort Frederick, that is here in St. Croix Virgin Islands. Frederickstead, St. Croix. So go ahead and get your airplane tickets ready so you can come down and check out all the artwork. And this theme is specific to
the Centennial Celebration.
Centennial Celebration that just happened here in St. Croix Virgin Islands. So we want to thank you again, Opal, for coming through. It's always good to see you coming through here and just being motivated and excited about what you're doing. You gotta get the young ones excited.
Absolutely.
About their culture and just doing the right thing. So, Soup, any final words?
Opal, I want to thank you again. Continue to do what you're doing. I wish you much success. May the Most High guide you and protect you. One perfect love.
Yeah, we like to say one perfect love is our prayers and His blessings. When you put it all together, you get one perfect love. Opal, you have the last word.
One perfect love, and let us celebrate our culture and share it with our children so that we preserve it and it is.
All right, so
God
we're out.
bless.
We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Rebel music, unplugged from the matrix. I'm free at last. Sun is falling in You cockroaches, you parasites, you leech. How